How's it going, guys? How all we're doing, and welcome to a brand new video tutorial from iPinus. Hopefully now the sounds actually is pretty good since I got a new microphone for you actually, guys, for the brand new video tutorials for the upcoming cool things that are gonna happen on the channel, on Udemy and on all the social platforms. So hopefully you enjoy actually the voice, and you can actually hear me very decently, so without any problems or anything else, because I've got, before I got the new microphone, I've got a serious sound problems and voice problems. Some of people that couldn't hear my voice and couldn't actually, hear my spelling and try to figure out what I'm saying. So now it should actually sounds way much better than it was, and hopefully you can actually understand. Now jumping back into our topic for today, and we're gonna talk about React Create App. So if you have been like a React app developer, or you're actually newbie to the field of React and trying to figure out your head about React, how to work with React, what is all the different things about React and why it's super complicated to work with React and all of different things. Hopefully we can clear things out in this particular video tutorial, and we can actually jump or talk more about the topic of React Create App. It's actually a tool set. So basically React Create App is actually a tool set or a command line interface that allows you to create or configure React projects, since creating or configuring React project is super hard and very tricky, and you need to have some skills in other things like Webpack and all the configuration stuff in order to be able to configure the projects successfully just with your custom skills without any other help of toolset like React Create App. This can be very hard and tricky sometimes, so using a toolset like React Create App can help you a lot. So what it does, for example, you want to start a new React application, you just use this tool set, it creates a project for you. This project is gonna, ready made for you, like you creating, for example, a Java project using Eclipse or IntelliJ or something like this, or for another hand, for example, you're gonna create an Android project, you're gonna have the whole configuration set up for you. All you gotta need to do, just add your code logic, your application logic to it, and you don't really need to worry about the other configuration, because they are gonna be taken care of from your IDE or from the command line interface you're actually using. In this case, we're gonna use React Create App. So it has the official documentation in here. It's actually a part of the React framework. So as you've seen, just to make sure that you are actually understanding both of these, there's actually the React framework. If you're new to this, the React framework is the main core framework, which is like the React framework that allows you to create user interfaces. But this one, we're going to cover it in here, is just like a tool set that allows you to create and configure the projects for React, and being able to fastly and quickly configure this project. So you will be able to pretty much very easily start off creating your projects and adding your logic to the application without any problem. So this is basically what it is. Now jumping back in here, this is the main official website if you really need any documentations or something. Now actually we need to install the React Create application in order to be able to create and configure our project. So make sure to go ahead and open up a terminal, and you clearly see Windows. I'm using CMender. You can use Linux terminal or Mac OS X or whatever, or you can even use CMD without any problems. Afterwards, you need to go ahead and install this using npm. So you just run npm install, or the better way is to use npx. So using npx, you can clearly see in here the documentation where it says npx create React app. So I'm just going to copy this really quickly, go back in here, and you can paste it. So just type in npx create React app, and you put the name of the application, my application, in here, and it actually is just gonna go ahead and install everything, and then we'll be able to pretty much figure this out for you. So without any problems and issues, just gonna go ahead and install this, and clearly see it starts like resolving and everything and trying to install in dependencies and stuff like this. So you've got to go ahead and wait for this, because it's gonna take some time, so we don't really want to miss that. And after a couple of minutes, there we go, it's done actually installing everything, and installed the dependencies you need with React scripts, and the whole environment actually ready made for you without any headache or something. So this is how basically you configure and create a React project without any headache or that much of configuration. So very easily, very straightforward, without any problems. Now we've got to go ahead and just go inside this project. So whatever you named it, for example, you did name it my application, so my dash app, make sure to cd there. and afterwards you've got to go ahead and use the code editor you want to use. For example, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code in here. I'm just going to give it code, which is the command line interface that allows us to interact with Visual Studio Code. I'm probably just going to give it a dot to open up the current one in a new instance of Visual Studio Code, and there we go. It does this. It's going to open up the projects on a Visual Studio Code instance, and the editor and everything is going to be ready for there, and we've got a couple of files actually to explain. Now let's go and jump into see the structure that creates or reacts, create React app, the command line interface, actually what it did and what is the whole files in here exists and why they actually exist. So starting off with the main file, which is the package.json, is actually having all the dependencies that your projects probably need, your React application need. If you install another third-party application and stuff like this, is going to be in here. And it has a couple of scripts in here that allows you to start and build and test the React application. So they already be pre-configured for you, so you don't really have to do any configuration or something for it. You just like need to run it and enjoy with that. There's also the Ajax script in here. We're going to talk about this in a couple of seconds. Just stand by in here, and we've got like, you know, dependencies that it uses, which React version it uses, and it has like a custom version, not the latest of course, but it has the version that it does support without any problems with all the features, so you don't really have to worry about that. There's also React script in here. What it does is has the whole configuration of, like, for example, since React uses Webpack to actually create the projects and minify the whole files and actually be able to recognize the React syntax as a normal JavaScript syntax and transpile all the different things that you're going to use. And probably React uses ES6 and ES7, so here it's going to just go ahead and do you know, the configuration for you, so you don't really have to worry about that. In the other case, if you try to use a normal React project and configure it yourself, like, you know, creating a project and adding the Webpack configuration to it, for example, you're going to use TypeScript, you add that configuration, you install all you know, command line interfaces, and you're going to install Babel for example to transpile the code because it's the best transpile thing. And you're going to do all of that. You're going to face errors, you're going to face a lot of things, and you're going to take quite some time in order to be able actually to get into code and start creating your application. So the configuration time or the configuration field is going to take quite some time. So this is the main reason people prefer to use Create React App, the command line interface that allows them to generate these projects and actually keep everything tidied up and everything in place so you can easily reach it. Is actually way much better than probably just go ahead and creating your own configuration and doing that, because it's like help. You know, they call it actually in the React field, people call it React configuration help because it really helped. So yeah, this is basically why they choose that. It's just like the development time and getting around without headache. And now we're just going to see what is the project structure. So starting off in here, if you can zoom this a little bit, let me just go and zoom this for you guys to actually see properly. I'm going to use zoom in so you can clearly see what is going on in here. So there's actually the SRC in here. The SRC has all the code probably already being put in here, so it's normal. You know, you're going to find, if you try to run this application, you're going to find a very simple application running, a React application pretty much, and it has like the index.js. The index.js is going to be the main entry point of your application. What it does in here, just go in and uses the API of React, and it renders that into actually the DOM, the application components. You render it to the DOM. Also, you have like another external file in here which is called the up components, that it renders a couple of logos and images and paragraphs and stuff like this. So yeah, this is basically, you can replace this with your own components and stuff. There's all logo.svg, a service worker. You don't really have to worry about that because this is actually going to be running in, you know, behind the scenes of the browser and going to help you, or help your script, help your application gets layout faster on the client browsers and, you know, get less errors and stuff like this. So it's going to take care of the exceptions and error handling and layout time and layout balancing and stuff like that. So you don't really have to worry about this. Don't change this anyway, even though it says it's optional, so just go ahead and leave it there. You don't really have to care about this. And you've got some testings being done behind the scenes, so using just it does the testing as well for application. If you know what is testing and stuff like this, you're gonna probably know what is this file is doing in here. And finally, there's the index.css, which has some CSS code. You can add, of course, pre-compiled or pre-processed other languages like Sass or Less for using it. It has like support out of the box, so you don't really have to do anything rather than just go ahead and installing this. For example, we can, I don't know, let me just go ahead and get rid of that and use the integrated terminal because it's way much better. And for example, you want to use like for SASS, you can go ahead and do it like npm install node-SASS. So simply just go ahead and install this, and make sure to install this as development dependency, because you're going to need it only under the development phase. And SASS is going to be like, supported by the application, and you're going to have everything inside of that. So this is simply you've got to need to do. If you need less, you need to install the less library or the actual Leodo for this, and then there we go. This is basically where it is. And under the src folder, whatever code you want, you're gonna need to put it in there. So for example, you're gonna have your main logic application code. You're gonna create more components. For example, you're gonna go ahead and do in here a new folder. This is actually what people use as a React application. So it's basically the best approach to create the structure of your project as you want to create a React application. So this is basically the best approach you can find. So here you will name this like as components, which is going to hold the whole components, your application components. You're probably going to move in here and create like, for example, a button component, which is going to be having some components gets rendered in a button, has a custom style and stuff like this. For this one in particular, for example, you're going to probably have, well, let me just go in and see. Let me just gonna get rid of that, both of them. Sorry, this. So as of speaking, you can have a button in here, you can have other components that gets rendered, but you don't really want to put anything inside or related to your code, like components and stuff related to your logic for your application outside of the src. So everything should be contained inside of the src. This is like actually to let React or create React apps to know that everything, all of your code has to be inside of the src to make sure that everything is working smoothly without any problems. Moving on into the public folder, what it does in there is actually everything static, like index.html or any HTML pages. For example, you're gonna have in there, I don't know, you can actually have like, I can clearly see a favicon icon in here, which is gonna display for your websites up there in the header. You can have a manifest file, you can have a meta file in here, you can have images, static files like audio files or music or something like this. So everything is going to be in there inside of the public folder. So it only serves as a public folder for a normal website like public HTML, where all the static files are going to be living in there. And obviously the node modules, it has all the modules. Of course, the configuration, actually, it's already pre-configured, like Webpack configuration. If you're looking for Webpack configuration, you're not going to find it in here. You won't be able to find it in here. If you want to use the full potential of Create React app, you don't want to see actually the Webpack configuration, because the main reason why Create React app actually exists is actually to reduce the problem of using Webpack configuration and getting into like a full hole of problems and errors of dealing of the configuration and trying to configure something and stuff like this. So it hides that, and it has like an optimal configuration for all the scenarios, case scenarios of an application or a React application. So if you want to see this, you've got to go ahead and eject that into your project. We're going to talk about this in a couple of minutes, as I've said. So just basically it. Now, further saying, let's go ahead and install the application in here. What we're gonna probably do is just go ahead and use npm run start, as we were speaking about the actual script that does exist. So this npm run start and stuff like this, it probably just gonna give you this error. Most of the times not. So if it gives you this error, it's just very straightforward. All you're gonna need to go ahead and do is just install the React script, because it's not properly installed and configured. So make sure to go ahead and install this as a development dependency only. So make sure to do that. So npm install React script. This is gonna take quite some time, so you've got to go ahead and wait for this for a couple of seconds. Now, after it has been installed successfully, just clear that out and run the script again. So just npm run start as we did before, and now it should actually everything work pretty much fine. If this error doesn't pop up for you, probably you're actually very lucky, and you can just go ahead and do that. I did that actually intentionally, so a lot of people faces this error, so we just wanted to guide them throughout this one and help them. Actually, if they face any kind of this error, it will be very easy for them to fix it, and just don't panic or something like this, because every error you face probably just like misconfiguration, or you're not installing something, or the modular is missing or something like this. So just work your head around and try to figure out what is going on, because it's not actually the end of the world or something like this, like most of the people think. and it's just gonna automatically open up a server for you, which is on the localhost 3000 port by default. If it doesn't find that port available, it's just gonna ask you to change the port, which is actually just gonna give you like, do you really want to change the port, and you say yes, and it changes the port for you. So everything is being handled for you behind the scenes without any problems. And there we go, you've got the application running. I've got the main components in here. If you want to change anything in here, for example, we can go to the application and say like up in here, instead of like, we've got an app header, and we can put in h3. For example, we're gonna put in h3, and you're gonna put hello from the other side or something like this. We can save that. You can clearly see, I just save it. It has like auto reload and hot reload. So we save it, it recompiles for us automatically. You can take a look in here. It does the reloading automatically for us. So you don't really have to worry about anything. It just like, takes the headache for you, and it gives you the hot reload, the server, the live server, the Webpack live server made ready for you out of the box. So for configuring a project like this, like create React application on a normal custom Webpack configuration and Babel configuration and all those stuff, it's gonna take quite some time for you, and it's gonna take a lot of stuff, a lot of work. A lot of errors gonna pop up for you in front of you, and you're gonna probably not understand that and try to figure out that Stack Overflow, GitHub issues and stuff like this. So probably this is the best way to get started from React if you're a beginner. I just go ahead, take my opinion on, go and try to use Create React App. If you're later on experienced enough with React Create App and React in general, you can just go ahead and move on and create your own Webpack configuration and try to figure out this out. So yeah, this is basically it about the structure and the projects. Now we can jump into a little bit more advanced things, so we don't really want to get the video too long, but what I want to cover is the build configuration. So let's say here you've figured actually out your application, you create an application as a normal React application. Probably you put the components, you can install third-party things from npm, from Yarn or something. You can get CSS stuff, you can include them on JavaScript and stuff like this, as you will deal with a normal React application. Now afterwards, you finish the application, you want to actually build it and deploy it into your server, like you're running GitHub pages or any other static site thing, or even a normal website, how you can actually build it. Now the build script comes in handy in this particular case, so we can go ahead and use this. So npm run build, just like run that script in here. Just put that command in there, and everything is set up for you behind the scenes, so you don't really have to worry about a couple of things, a lot of things actually. Now it goes and creates that into the production mode. So it's gonna reduce the bundle size. What I mean by the bundle size is actually the final bundle. So all of the JavaScript code in here, you put all of your components, like inside of the app.js, inside of the CSS files, the button.js, for example, the index.js, all of those gonna be taken, copied, and actually transpiled down into a much better suitable ES version, like ECMAScript version, like ES3 or 4 or something like this, that the browser can understand fully. And it just like puts that, all of it, inside of one single file, probably just multiple chunks, and it does that for you. So clearly seeing here what it tells for you in the output. It says like, we have minimized this. It uses gzip as well to minimize everything into the actual optimal thing. And we can use actually, there we go. You will notice a new folder gets created inside of the actual projects. It's the build folder. Inside of the build folder, you've got everything you need to actually deploy your site or your application. Even though you don't actually understand what is going on in here behind the scenes, what is all of these files and stuff like this. Inside of the static folder, you've got your CSS files being, minimized inside of chunks and put it there. You've got also like the JS files in here. Everything is in there without any problems. And obviously you've got the media files. For example, you've got an SVG, images, audio, also the JSON files, all of them going to be inside of the media. Pretty cool, huh? So yeah, clearly in here, all of the JavaScript, you don't really have to worry about anything in here. You just go ahead and copy the build folder that we've created, the build directory, take it to your site and just, deploy it there. This other card shows you how you can deploy this on a Linux server or something like this, because it's a little bit more advanced than that, but this is basically all you're gonna need to do. Now, how you can use that to serve from this particular directory, you can go ahead and install a package called serve. So just use npm install serve, you can just go ahead and save this as a global. So just -G, just save it as a globally. Afterwards, after you install it and everything, you can use that like serve. You give it an S to give it which static folder you want to start from, and I'm gonna tell it to start from the build folder. In this case, it's gonna go ahead and run the build configuration that we've created. It creates a server for us inside of, like, for example, default port 5000. Control click. It's just gonna go and open that inside of Chrome, and there we go. We've got another application, but in this case, this is running a production build. I have an extension in here that tells you if React is actually inside of production. So you can clearly see this page is using the production build of React. On the other hand, this one is actually using the development build of React. So here we are actually running it from the build folder and stuff like this. So that's how basically you can go ahead and, build your application and deploy it into a normal server. The last thing to cover is the eject command. What does the eject command does is basically, as I've told you before, that the Webpack configuration and all of the configuration that, being hidden from you behind the scenes, and you don't really have to take care of, so you can actually inject them. What I mean by eject, you can just go ahead and expose them in here and you can edit them. So, which is not actually what React or Create React app is meant for, which is not what you want to do if you don't really know what it's actually doing, because it's really bad and you can't go back. If you eject your application, you can't go back. You can't actually get it back into how it was and stuff like this. So make sure to know what you're actually doing before ejecting that. So eject is actually only for normal or advanced usage, not normal user beginners. So make sure to know what it's actually doing. Let me just gonna show you what it does. So just npm ejects in here. If you can put that, just put this command apart and clearly see, you will actually notice, are you sure you want to eject? This action is permanent, as I told you before, which you can probably not, go back inside of it. Git repositories, tracked files or committed changes. It gives you like this in tracked files. What I mean by this, like you need to use Git and stuff like this. That's why I told you this is really, really hard and hard thing. I can go ahead and just, and stage changes or, discard all the changes and stuff like this. And I can give this back. So npm eject again. It asks me again for if I really want to do this. I'm just going to put that. You're gonna try to eject and stuff like this. If you can take a look on the configuration in here, you're gonna see noticeable configuration folders getting created, and in your script files that you can use and stuff like this, which is not actually what you want to do. So just want to show you what it does. It just gets everything, all of the configuration out for you so you can edit them. In this case, if you don't do the ejects, if you use the Create React app, the default configuration and stuff like this, you won't be able actually to edit the Webpack configuration or any other configuration that is running behind the scenes for configuring React and stuff like this. So if you want to do this, you need to eject your application. As I've told you before, ejecting is not the best choice to go for, but only for professional users who knows what they're actually doing, they can actually eject the application. So this is basically it. I just wanted to point into ejecting and stuff like this and how you can use Create React app and stuff like this. This is probably a little bit longer video, but hopefully you've got some tips and tricks to use React App and what it basically is. If you're a beginner, if you don't know what is React App, it's basically a command line interface that allows you to create projects very easily and configure them for a React development smooth environment. So yeah, that was actually, guys, thank you guys for watching. I really do hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Hopefully you enjoy actually the new voice. Tell me that in your comments if you really like the voice or something like this. Thank you guys for watching. As I said again, I will catch you all hopefully in the next one.